At just 17, Miriam gave birth to a baby boy in a small, dimly lit hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and quiet hope. Her body ached, but her heart was full. As the nurse handed the baby over to her mother, Miriam's eyes followed longingly. She wanted nothing more than to hold him and whisper, "That's my baby." Instead, she lay quietly as her mother, Madame Grace, studied the infant's face. "He looks like a girl," Madame Grace said, her voice soft, almost amused. Then she smiled. That smile, rare and delicate, was a small sign that she had accepted the impossible truth. Her teenage daughter was now a mother. It hadn't been easy. When Madame Grace first discovered the pregnancy, she flew into a rage. "You what?" she screamed, her voice slicing through the walls of their modest home. Miriam, trembling in her school uniform, tried to explain. I didn't mean for it to happen," she stammered. But her mother wouldn't listen. "You've disgraced me, Miriam. What will the church say? What will the neighbors say?" Madame Grace had worked hard as a widow to keep her daughter in school. Now everything was falling apart. And to make matters worse, Miriam refused to reveal who the father was. "Tell me," Madame Grace had demanded, eyes burning with fury. But Miriam stood her ground. "I can't. I won't." She loved him. Her boyfriend, Daniel, had finished high school the year before. They were young, careless, in love, or so she thought. "You want to protect him. Fine. Go and live with him," her mother snapped. That same night, she packed Miriam's things in a worn travel bag and sent her away. The girl had nowhere to go but to a distant aunt's house, Auntie Lizzie, who took her in out of pity. Living with Auntie Lizzie wasn't ideal. Her home was crowded, noisy, and filled with children who eyed Miriam with curiosity and sometimes disdain. But at least she had a roof over her head. She helped with chores, kept her head down, and quietly endured her condition. 4 months pregnant, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, a knock echoed at Auntie Lizzie's door. It was Madame Grace. Her face was softer now, her tone gentler. "Come home," she said simply. Miriam stared at her, unsure if she was dreaming. "You're my daughter. I won't abandon you again." Back at home, the atmosphere had changed. Her mother no longer asked about the boy's father. Instead, she began treating Miriam with care, cooking her favorite meals, rubbing her back when she had aches, preparing warm water for her to bathe. Miriam saw glimpses of the mother she remembered from childhood, the one who braided her hair and tucked her in at night. But it came with a condition. The day the baby was born, Madame Grace took his tiny body in her arms and said, "From now on, he is mine. He will call me mother, and you will be his sister. Do you understand?" Miriam blinked slowly, trying to absorb the weight of her mother's words. "Sister," she echoed. Her chest tightened. "But he's mine." Madame Grace's tone didn't change. "Yes, and I'm doing this for you. You'll go back to school. You'll finish. And one day when you can take care of him yourself, then, maybe." Miriam nodded, tears filling her eyes. It wasn't what she wanted, but she had no choice. Her dream of becoming a lawyer had not died. If pretending to be his sister was the cost of chasing that dream, she was willing to pay it. Weeks later, Miriam returned to school. Her classmates asked no questions, just whispered when she passed by. Some teachers looked at her with pity, others with judgment. She kept her head low and studied hard. Meanwhile, Madame Grace relocated to a smaller town far away. "People talk too much," she said. "I want peace. And I want him to grow up without noise." In the quiet of that new place, Madame Grace raised the boy, Joel. That was the name Miriam had whispered during delivery. "Joel," she had said. "He will be strong." And strong he was. Healthy, happy, and full of life. Joel's real father, Daniel, had long vanished. After Miriam left home, he disappeared from town, refusing to answer her calls. She later heard he traveled abroad to stay with an uncle in the US and never came back. He never reached out, never checked. Miriam, heartbroken but determined, erased him from her mind. "He's gone. Let him go," Madame Grace often said, as though it helped. What mattered now was Joel. Each time Miriam went home for holidays, she watched him grow like a tree in fast forward. His smile was wide, and his eyes sparkled with wonder. But each visit was also a quiet torment. Joel would run into her arms shouting, "Sister Mimi," and she would smile, her heart breaking quietly. One time he asked, "Why don't you stay with us, sister?" She swallowed hard and said, "I have to go to school, Joel. But I'll come back soon." At night, after he fell asleep, she would sit by his bed and stroke his tiny fingers, whispering stories he couldn't hear. "One day," she murmured, "I'll tell you everything. But not now. Not yet." When Miriam graduated from university, she didn't become a lawyer. Her grades weren't high enough to enter law school, but she got a good job in administration. It wasn't her original dream, but it was something. With her first paycheck, she rented a one-bedroom flat. By then, Joel was almost 7 years old. A little man with big ideas. She started planning to bring him to live with her. "We'll live like mother and son," she whispered to herself. Finally. But just as she was making arrangements, tragedy struck. Madame Grace, her mother, her shield, her secret keeper, died suddenly in her sleep. Miriam stood by the casket, her hands shaking as she held Joel's small fingers. He was crying softly. "She was the only mother I knew," he said, voice breaking. Miriam didn't reply. She just held him tighter, unable to speak through the storm of grief and confusion swirling inside her. Her mother's death was like a tree falling in the middle of her life. Loud, sudden, and devastating. But more than that, Miriam feared the truth would now be buried with her. Madame Grace had promised to one day explain everything to Joel. That promise was now a ghost. After the funeral, Miriam took Joel home with her. The flat was small but clean. He ran around exploring, pausing at pictures of Miriam on the wall. "Why are there so many pictures of you alone?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "I didn't have many people to take pictures with." He nodded innocently. "You're all I have now." That night, as he lay on the bed, Miriam sat silently in the living room, hands trembling, clutching a photo of Joel as a baby. "I need to tell him," she whispered. "He deserves to know." But the words wouldn't come. Days turned into weeks. Joel adjusted quickly to their new life. He called Miriam sister as usual, and she played along. Sometimes while brushing his teeth or helping him with homework, she would pause and just look at him. Really look. His face, his nose, his smile, all mirrors of her own. One evening over dinner Joel asked, "Sister Mimi, why don't we have a father?" Miriam's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. She blinked, startled. What? All my friends have one. Even the ones whose parents are divorced. But we never had one." The question sank deep into her chest like a heavy stone. She swallowed hard and forced a smile. "We have a father. He just traveled, long ago. He might come back one day." Joel tilted his head. "Where did he go?" She hesitated. "Abroad. Why doesn't he call?" She dropped her eyes. "He can't." Joel went quiet. "Okay." He didn't push further. But the damage was done. That night, Miriam cried silently into her pillow, her back turned to him. She hated herself for lying. But she didn't know how to start telling him the truth. One quiet Saturday afternoon, while Joel was at a friend's house, Miriam sat scrolling through Facebook. Out of curiosity or desperation, she typed Daniel's name into the search bar. His face appeared instantly. He looked older, more confident. Married? She wasn't sure. Her heart pounded as she clicked message. "Hi. It's Miriam," she typed. A minute later the reply came. "Oh my God. Is this really you?" The conversation flowed quickly. He told her he had wondered about her. She told him she was fine. Then came the question. "So how's our son doing?" Miriam stared at the screen for a long time. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. Finally she typed, We don't have a son. I lost him. Silence. Then his reply. Ah. That's why your parents never contacted me, right? She read it twice. Her lips parted. Was that relief in his words? She didn't reply again. She shut her phone and placed its screen down on the table. Her hands were numb. Her heart felt hollow. So that was it. No guilt. No sorrow. Just freedom for him. And for her. Just more lies to carry. Joel returned that evening, excited to show her a drawing he made. It's a house, he beamed. With a garden. And that's me and you, sister and brother. Miriam forced a smile. It's beautiful. Do you like flowers? He asked. I do, she said softly, fighting tears. Joel paused. Sister, if I had a mother, do you think she would have liked flowers too? Miriam turned away. I think she would have loved them. Joel nodded. I'll draw her one day. Even though I've never seen her. Miriam held her breath. She whispered inside. You see her every day, Joel. She started writing a letter. Every night after Joel slept, she'd take out a notebook and begin. Dear Joel, I'm sorry I've lied to you for so long. Then she would stop, tear the page and start again. Over and over. The words wouldn't come. She rehearsed conversations in the mirror. Joel, I'm your mother. She tried again. I had you when I was 17. Nothing sounded right. Nothing felt enough. Her biggest fear wasn't his anger. It was his confusion. She worried he would feel unloved, unwanted, or worse, that he would never forgive her. One evening, as they washed dishes together, Joel turned to her and said, Sister, are secrets bad? Miriam's hands froze under the running water. Why do you ask? My friend Kobe said his mom hid the fact that he was adopted. He found out on his birthday and he cried all day. She swallowed. Sometimes people keep secrets because they're scared. Joel looked up at her. What are they scared of? Of hurting the people they love. Joel nodded thoughtfully. I think I'd still love my mom. Even if she had secrets. Miriam looked at him, blinking back tears. That night she sat by Joel's bed, watching his chest rise and fall. The moonlight spilled across the room, casting soft silver lines across his face. She wanted to wake him up, to shake him and whisper, It's me. I'm your mother. But she didn't. Instead, she sat quietly and whispered to the ceiling, Please give me the strength. Let me do this right. Then she looked at Joel again. Maybe on your 15th birthday, she said softly. Or maybe 16th. Maybe when you're ready. She tucked the blanket under his chin. One day, my love. One day I'll tell you. The next morning, Joel woke up cheerful, bouncing into the kitchen in his pajamas. Sister Mimi, can I make breakfast today? He asked, his eyes wide with excitement. Miriam smiled as she passed him an apron. Only if you promise not to burn the kitchen. He giggled. Deal. As he cracked eggs awkwardly into a bowl, Miriam watched him closely. You look just like your father, she whispered, more to herself than to him. He didn't hear her. He was too busy spilling salt on the counter. Oops, he muttered. I think the eggs are crying. She laughed. It was the first genuine laugh she'd had in days. Life went on like that. Peaceful on the outside, full of quiet storms on the inside. Miriam woke up early, packed Joel's lunch, dropped him at school and headed to work. In the evenings they watched cartoons, played board games or read storybooks. To neighbors and friends, they were just a happy pair of siblings making the best of their situation. Some even admired Miriam for stepping up after their mother's death. She's like a second mother to that boy, a woman in the compound once said. Miriam smiled politely, but inside it stung. She wasn't his second mother. She was his only one. On Joel's 8th birthday, Miriam organized a small party in their living room. Just a few classmates, balloons, jollof rice and cake with "Happy Birthday, Joel" written in wobbly icing. Joel beamed the entire day. But when they cut the cake, he turned to Miriam and whispered, Sister, if Mommy were alive, do you think she'd be proud of me? Miriam blinked back tears. She would be so proud, Joel. More than you'll ever know. He nodded. I miss her. Even if I don't remember her. That night she lay awake replaying his words. She felt like a thief, stealing memories he never even got the chance to have. Miriam started reading parenting books in secret. She'd search online at night. How to tell a child you're his real mother, or breaking family secrets without breaking hearts. Each article gave advice that only made her more anxious. You must be prepared for rejection. Be honest but expect tears. Children feel betrayed when lied to. She closed her laptop each time with a sigh, then peeked into Joel's room. He always slept with one arm flung across the pillow and the other curled around his favorite stuffed lion. She wished time would pause just for a while. One weekend, they visited Madame Grace's old home to pack her remaining things. Joel ran ahead through the gate while Miriam stood frozen, staring at the place where everything had changed. Inside, the air was heavy with memories. Joel found an old album and opened it on the floor. Who's this baby? He asked, pointing to a photo. Miriam knelt beside him. It was a photo of Joel as a newborn in her arms. Her breath caught. That's you, she said. He frowned. But why are you holding me? Shouldn't Mommy be holding me? Miriam didn't answer. She just closed the album. They drove home in silence that day. Joel stared out the window, and Miriam kept both hands tightly on the wheel. That night, he didn't ask for his usual bedtime story. He simply said, "Good night, sister," and turned to the wall. Miriam sat in the living room with the photo album resting on her lap. The image of her cradling Joel had reopened something she had buried too deep. I can't keep lying, she whispered into the quiet. He's not a baby anymore. He deserves the truth. But even as she said it, her stomach twisted with fear. Weeks passed, and Joel became quieter. He still laughed, still joked, but he had questions now. They lingered in his eyes even when he didn't speak. One afternoon after school, he brought home a family tree assignment. We're supposed to fill this out, he said. Miriam looked at the sheet. It had boxes labeled mother, father, siblings. Can I put you in the sibling box? He asked. She nodded slowly. Yes, for now. He hesitated. But what about the mother box? Miriam stared at it. You can leave it blank, she said quietly. He looked at her. Okay, he replied, but his voice sounded unsure. That evening, Miriam called an old friend, Amara, someone who had known her since school days and knew the truth. I think he's starting to suspect, Miriam said. So what are you waiting for? Amara asked. He's almost 9. I'm scared, Amara. What if he hates me? What if I ruin everything? Amara was silent for a moment, then said, He's your son. He may cry. He may be confused. But he'll never hate you. You've loved him all his life. Miriam wiped her eyes. I hope you're right. You need to believe it, Amara said gently. The next weekend, Miriam took Joel to a quiet park. They sat under a big mango tree, eating puff-puff and drinking zobo. She watched as he kicked off his shoes and ran across the grass, laughing as the wind brushed through his curls. When he returned, panting and happy, she patted the grass beside her. Joel, she said, can I talk to you about something important? He plopped down. Is it serious? She nodded. Yes, very. He blinked, his smile fading. Okay. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling in her lap. I have something to tell you. And I want you to listen closely. Joel nodded slowly, sensing the weight in her voice. Miriam stared at the sky, then at her trembling fingers. Do you remember when you asked about your mother? He nodded. She didn't leave you. She didn't die the way we told you. Joel frowned. Then what happened? She looked him straight in the eyes, her voice cracking. She never left because she's right here. Joel's eyes widened. What? Miriam swallowed hard. I'm not your sister, Joel. I'm your mother. I gave birth to you when I was 17. For a moment there was only silence, and the wind in the mango tree. Joel's lips parted slightly. He stared at her, unblinking, his chest rising and falling quickly. "You're my mom," he said slowly. Miriam nodded. "Yes, Joel. I am." He sat back on the grass, as if trying to steady himself. "But Grandma said you were my sister." "You always said you were my sister." "I know," she whispered. "I lied because I thought it was best. I was young, scared, and I didn't want to lose my future. Grandma helped me hide it so I could go back to school. We agreed I'd be your sister for a while." Joel said nothing. His eyes searched hers for answers she wasn't sure she had. The silence felt like it lasted forever. Then finally he spoke. "So all this time, called you sister. I told everyone you were my sister." Miriam's throat tightened. "I know, baby. And I hated it. Every time you said it, it hurt. But I wanted to wait for the right time to tell you." Joel shook his head. "What's the right time to tell someone something like this?" She had no answer. She looked down at her hands and said, "Maybe there's never a perfect time. Maybe I just didn't have the courage earlier." He looked away, folding his arms. "I need to think." They rode home in silence. The car windows were down, and the breeze carried with it the sound of distant horns and passing motorcycles. Miriam kept her eyes on the road, her heart pounding. She wanted to say more, but Joel didn't speak. He looked out the window, his face unreadable. When they got home, he walked straight to his room and closed the door gently. Not angrily, not dramatically. Just quietly. Miriam sat on the edge of the couch, unsure what to do. Had she broken something? Had she waited too long? She wept into her hands, scared she had lost him forever. For 2 days, Joel kept his distance. He wasn't rude or loud. Just quiet. He did his homework, brushed his teeth, and ate his food, but without his usual chatter or laughter. On the 3rd night, Miriam knocked on his door. "Joel," she said softly. He didn't answer, but she heard movement inside. She stepped in and found him sitting on the floor, playing with his old Lego blocks. "I used to build castles and pretend I was a prince," he said without looking up. "I thought I knew who I was. Now I don't even know what to think." Miriam knelt beside him. "You're still Joel," she said. "The same amazing, smart, funny boy. And you're still loved by me. Nothing about that has changed." He looked up at her, his eyes red. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" She sighed. "Because I was scared. I thought I might lose you if I did." He frowned. "Lose me how? I didn't know if you'd understand. Or if you'd hate me. Or if you'd think I didn't want you." Joel wiped his nose with his sleeve. "I don't hate you." Miriam reached for his hand. "Thank you." He didn't pull away. That night, Joel didn't sleep in his room. He walked to the living room and climbed into Miriam's bed quietly, curling beside her. She opened her eyes, surprised. "Joel, I just wanted to be close," he whispered. She pulled the blanket over both of them and held him tightly. "I love you, Joel," she said. "I've always loved you." He was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Did my father love me too?" Miriam hesitated. He didn't know how. He was afraid. He ran away. "Will I ever meet him?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "But you have me." The next morning, Joel made toast for breakfast. "I think I'll still call you sister in public," he said casually. Miriam looked up, startled. "Why?" He shrugged. "I'm not ready to explain all of this to my friends. Maybe later. But at home, I'll call you Mom." Her heart swelled. "That's more than enough for me." As they ate, he smiled shyly. "Can we go buy a new frame for that baby picture? The one with you holding me." "Of course," she said. "We'll put it on the shelf. Right where it belongs." Joel nodded. "Next to your graduation photo." As the weeks passed, their bond grew deeper, no longer guarded by false titles. Joel began asking questions, slowly and gently. What was it like, being 17 and pregnant? Miriam would pause and answer each one with honesty. It was scary. Lonely. But the moment I saw you, it was worth it. He asked about his father too. Did he ever write to you? Once, she said. But we lost touch. I don't even know where he is now. Joel thought about that. Well, I'm not going to disappear when I grow up. She smiled. I know. You're stronger than he ever was. One afternoon, Joel came home holding a drawing. It's our family tree, he said proudly. This time I filled it right. Miriam looked at it. At the top it read, Mother Miriam. Father unknown. Siblings none. Her eyes filled with tears. Joel, thank you. He shrugged. It's the truth now. I figured it's better to tell my own story. She hugged him tightly. You're the bravest boy I've ever known. He grinned. Well, I had a strong mom to raise me, even when she was pretending to be my sister. They both laughed. Later that evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sun set, Joel leaned against her. Mom, he said quietly, I think I understand why you lied. Miriam turned to him, surprised. You do. He nodded. You were just trying to protect both of us. It wasn't perfect. But you did your best. She held his hand, her eyes wet with emotion. I'm so proud of you, Joel. He smiled. One day I'll tell my kids about you. How my mom became my sister to give me a better life. Miriam laughed gently. Just don't leave out the part where I couldn't cook at all when I was 17. Joel chuckled. Never. Miriam and Joel began to live more openly at home. At night Joel would say, Good night, Mom, and it would echo in her heart like music. But outside he kept calling her Sister Mimi, just like before. Miriam respected that. She understood that children needed time to adjust. At school, when he introduced her at events, he said, This is my sister. But he'd squeeze her hand tightly, like a silent reassurance that he knew the truth. Once as they walked home he whispered, When I'm older, I'll tell everyone. I just want to be ready first. Miriam smiled. Take your time, my love. There's no rush. One afternoon, Joel returned from school with a letter. It's for Parents' Day, he said. We're supposed to come with our moms or dads. Miriam froze. Do you want me to come? Of course, he said quickly. But, do you want to come as my mom or my sister? Miriam stared at the letter, her heart thudding. Joel continued. It's okay either way. I just don't want you to feel awkward. She looked up at him and said, Joel, I want to come as your mom. I'm ready. Are you? He nodded slowly. I think I am too. On Parents' Day, Miriam wore a neat blue dress and styled her hair in soft curls. Joel held her hand the whole way to the school gate. When they entered the classroom, the teacher smiled. Welcome, Joel's sister. Joel cleared his throat. Actually, he said, voice calm but firm, this is my mom. The room fell silent for a moment. Then the teacher blinked. Oh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Miriam smiled gently. It's okay. We didn't really tell anyone before now. Joel grinned and looked up at her. Now they know. Miriam's eyes shimmered with quiet pride. After the event, as they walked home, Joel looked relaxed. Lighter. You know, he said. That felt good. What did? Telling the truth. Letting people know who you are. Miriam nodded. It does feel good. I've been hiding for so long I forgot how freedom feels. Joel glanced at her. Did Grandma ever feel bad about hiding the truth? Miriam thought for a moment. I think she struggled. But she believed she was helping. And honestly, I wouldn't have finished school if she hadn't stepped in. She was a strong woman, Joel said. She was, Miriam whispered. Like you. Later that week, Joel began writing in a new diary. Miriam caught him scribbling often. What are you writing? She asked one evening. He grinned. Just thoughts. About everything. About you. About me. Can I read it? He shook his head. Not yet. But maybe one day. She nodded. Fair enough. One evening, he read a line aloud without warning. Some moms give birth and raise their kids. Mine gave birth, stepped back, then came back stronger. Miriam blinked quickly. You wrote that. He nodded. It's true. She leaned in and kissed his forehead. Thank you, Joel. That means more than you know. Over time, Miriam began to heal, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The shame she once carried began to lose its grip. She started sharing small parts of her story at women's group meetings, carefully, with tears but also strength. There was a time I was just a scared girl, she told them. But now I'm a woman raising a good boy who makes me proud every day. Some women cried. Others hugged her after. You're so brave, one said. Miriam shook her head. No, I just did what I had to do. The real courage is learning to forgive yourself. One afternoon, Joel returned home with an envelope. It's a writing competition, he said excitedly. Theme: someone who changed my life. Miriam smiled. Are you entering? Definitely. What are you going to write about? He grinned. I'm writing about you, Mom. Her heart skipped. Me? Yep. I mean, who else would it be? She tried not to cry in front of him, but her voice shook. Thank you, Joel. I'm honored. You gave me life, he said simply. And you gave me the truth, even when it was hard. She hugged him tightly, too full to speak. Weeks later, Joel won first place in the competition. His essay was displayed on the school's notice board. Miriam stood reading it with pride and a lump in her throat. My mom was once my sister. She hid the truth to protect me and to save herself. I used to feel like something was missing, but now I know it was never missing. It was just hidden, waiting for the right time. Parents and teachers stood reading it too, moved by his honesty and clarity. Miriam wiped her eyes as Joel stood beside her. You were never missing either, he said. You were always here. The story slowly spread. People began to understand their journey. Some apologized for assuming things. Others shared their own secrets. You gave us courage, one neighbor told Miriam. Your story helped us talk to our own children. She didn't expect to become a symbol of strength, but she welcomed it. Joel adjusted too. He corrected people less when they called Miriam his sister, because most now knew the truth. It doesn't matter what they say, he told her. What matters is what I know. You're my mom. That's forever. And she believed it, deep in her soul. One evening, as they sat outside watching the stars, Joel leaned his head on her shoulder. You know what I think, he said. What? I think you should write your own story. Like a real one. A book maybe. Miriam chuckled. A book. Yes. You could help so many girls who feel scared or ashamed like you once did. She thought for a moment. Maybe I will. Promise. I promise. He looked up at the stars. I'd call it The Girl Who Became Her Son's Sister. Miriam laughed softly. That title alone would make people cry. Joel smiled. Then it's perfect. Miriam started writing. Late at night, when the world was quiet and Joel had fallen asleep, she'd sit at her small desk with a notebook and pen. She wrote about the fear of being 17 and pregnant. About being thrown out. About love, shame, silence, and sacrifice. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she laughed at how clueless she had been. She didn't know if it would become a book, but it was already becoming something more. A way to forgive herself completely. Each page felt like peeling off a layer she no longer needed. She was writing not just for herself, but for Joel too. Joel would check in every morning. How's the book going? She'd smile and say, it's growing just like you. He'd beam proudly. When I grow up I want to write too. Maybe we'll publish books together. Deal, she said, tapping his nose playfully. Mother and son authors. He thought for a second. Do you think Dad would read it? She hesitated, then answered. Maybe. If he ever sees it, maybe he'll understand what he missed. Joel nodded. I don't think I'm angry at him. Not really. That's because your heart is bigger than most, she said. He hugged her quietly in response. Years passed. Joel grew taller, his voice deeper. At 15, he no longer needed help tying his shoes or packing his lunch. But he still called Miriam Mom at home, loudly, proudly. Sometimes they'd sit together and read chapters of the story she was slowly finishing. "You should call it The Hidden Truth," Joel once suggested. Miriam smiled. "Or maybe The Secret That Grew Up With Us." He laughed. "Too long. What about just Joel's mom?" Joel rolled his eyes. "That sounds like a children's book." They both laughed, comfortable now, open and forever connected. When Joel turned 16, Miriam finally told him about Daniel, his father. She explained how they were young, in love and scared. How he disappeared, and how she lied to protect Joel from the pain of rejection. Joel listened quietly. "Do you want to find him?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not really. Maybe one day. But I'm not missing anything." She blinked. "You're sure?" He nodded. "I already have the parent who stayed. I don't need to chase the one who ran." Miriam hugged him tightly. That moment felt like closure. Gentle, healing closure. At school, Joel was now known as the boy who wrote the essay that made teachers cry. Some students teased, others admired him. He handled it with grace. "I'd rather be honest than cool," he once told a friend. When he spoke at a school event, he said, "Sometimes parents make mistakes. But what matters is what they do after the mistake." The audience applauded. Miriam, sitting in the back row, wiped away silent tears. She had once feared being exposed. Now her truth was helping others heal. Pain had turned into purpose. Shame had bloomed into strength. One day, Miriam received a message from a stranger. I think I'm Daniel's wife. I came across a story I believe is about my husband's past." Her hands shook. She showed the message to Joel. He read it and asked calmly, "Do you want to reply?" "I don't know," she admitted. Joel took her phone and typed, "Thank you for reaching out. That past no longer belongs to him. It belongs to my son and me now." He handed the phone back. "You don't owe him anything, Mom." She nodded. "And I'm done carrying him too." Miriam finally published her story as a memoir. She titled it, "The Girl Who Became Her Son's Sister." The book received quiet praise. Some mothers sent her letters. Some teenagers asked for advice. But her proudest moment came when Joel introduced her at a school event. "This is my mother," he said. "She once gave up her title just to protect me. But now the whole world knows who she is." The applause was thunderous. Miriam stood there, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. And beside her stood Joel, the proof that love, even hidden, had always been present. One evening Joel asked, "Do you ever miss the old days?" Miriam thought for a moment. "Sometimes. But not the lies. I miss the innocence. I miss your little hands." He smiled. "I miss calling you sister sometimes. But I like Mom better." She laughed. "I do too." They sat quietly, sharing roasted corn under the stars. "You know what I'm most grateful for?" he asked. "What?" "That you didn't give up on me, even when it hurt." Miriam placed her hand over his. "And I never will." In that moment the past finally felt like peace. Joel graduated from high school with honors. Miriam wore the biggest smile at the ceremony. During his speech, Joel said, "My life didn't begin in the most traditional way. But I had everything I needed, a mother who fought in silence so I could shine in the open." Miriam's eyes glistened. When the event ended, Joel ran into her arms. "We made it, Mom," she whispered. "You made me proud every single day." That night they danced in their living room, music low, laughter loud. It was no longer about hiding or surviving. It was about living, fully, freely, truthfully. Years later, Joel would tell his children, "Your grandma was my sister for many years." Crazy, right? They'd laugh in disbelief. But she became my mom the moment she told the truth. And from then on we never looked back. Miriam, now older, sat quietly by the window, listening to his voice. She smiled. The journey had been long, painful, and complicated. But in the end love had won. And as the children ran toward her shouting, "Grandma Mimi," she stood, arms open, heart full. She had once feared losing everything. But in truth, she had gained more than she ever dreamed.